The void of space had never been truly silent. It hummed, whispered, and pulsed with the distant echoes of dying stars and collapsing nebulae. Yet, on the edges of the known galaxy, where human presence was sparse, a new sound emerged, a resonance that had no source yet existed everywhere. For centuries, humanity had expanded outward, not as conquerors, but as seekers. They built stations orbiting distant moons, erected colonies in the frozen shadows of dead worlds, and sent ships into the abyss in search of answers. And then, they found something. Or rather, something found them. Dr. Elias Voss stood aboard the observation deck of the Argus, a deep space research vessel stationed on the periphery of a long-forgotten sector. He had seen many wonders in his years as a xenophysicist, but nothing quite like this. Before them, suspended in the black void, was an artifact, a monolith of incomprehensible design, pulsing with an energy that defied all conventional readings. It was neither metallic nor organic, neither dead nor alive. It simply was. "We've detected fluctuations in its structure, Dr. Voss," said Lieutenant Rena Ilyanov, her voice edged with controlled excitement. "It reacts to our presence." Voss exhaled slowly, staring at the monolith as it pulsed again, sending faint ripples across the void. The data streams flickered on the screens beside him, but they made no sense. The artifact's energy signature was familiar. "It's resonating with something inside us," Voss murmured. Rena frowned. "Inside us? You mean—" "Yes," he nodded. "Something deeply buried in human biology." The discovery sent waves through the scientific community. Humanity had always assumed they were alone, or at least fundamentally separate from whatever ancient entities might have once roamed the stars. But this changed everything. The monolith wasn't just reacting to their presence, it was awakening something within them. As the Argus crew continued their analysis, reports began flooding in from across the frontier. Humans, on other distant stations, experienced the same phenomenon: heightened perception, inexplicable visions, a strange awareness that was not their own. Something had shifted in the human genome, triggered by an external force that defied understanding. And then came the message. Not from the monolith, not from any known species, but from within their own minds. "You were never meant to forget." Voss felt his breath hitch. The words carried weight, a meaning that transcended language. As the monolith pulsed again, sending another wave of resonance through their bodies, he realized the truth. Humanity had not stumbled upon a cosmic anomaly. They had found the key to what they once were, and something, somewhere, was waiting for them to remember. The Argus crew remained transfixed by the monolith. The air inside the observation deck felt heavier, charged with an unseen force. The pulse of the artifact was no longer just an external phenomenon. It had taken root inside them. Voss gripped the railing tightly. "This is more than just an ancient object," he said, his voice hushed but resolute. "It's a doorway, an anchor to something greater." Lieutenant Ilyanov's fingers hovered over her datapad. "Sir, we've received reports from other deep space stations. Some crew members are experiencing shared memories that don't belong to them. They claim to see distant worlds, unfamiliar stars, entire civilizations." A chill ran down Voss's spine. He had felt it too. Glimpses of places he had never set foot on, whispers in languages he had never spoken. It was as if the monolith was unraveling the boundaries of identity itself. "We need to isolate the source of this transmission," Ilyanov continued, tapping rapidly at her console. "If it's affecting us, then—" Before she could finish, the ship's emergency klaxons blared. A distorted voice crackled through the comm system, fragmented and alien yet eerily familiar. "The veil has been lifted. The cycle begins anew." The words sent an undeniable shiver through everyone on board. A distant tremor rippled through the ship's hull, as if something outside had awakened in response. Voss met Ilyanov's gaze. "We're not just discovering history, we're becoming part of it." Outside, the monolith pulsed again, and the stars themselves seemed to shift. The monolith's pulse had changed. It was no longer a distant rhythm. They could feel it inside them, in their bones, in their thoughts. Voss stood before the main holo display, analyzing the new wave patterns. "It's accelerating," he muttered. "The resonance is synchronizing with something deeper." "Or someone," Ilyanov added, her tone edged with a tension that mirrored the rising unease within the crew. Reports from across the fleet painted an alarming picture. Sleep cycles had become erratic. Crew members spoke of fragmented dreams, visions of an ancient war, of titanic beings locked in a struggle beyond comprehension. And most unsettling of all, the sensation that they were being watched. "Sir, we have incoming transmissions from multiple locations," a technician called from the comm station. They all contain the same phrase. The screen flickered. Messages, written in different human languages, flooded in from deep space colonies, research stations, even long-range probes. "The pulse returns. Prepare the vessels." A heavy silence settled over the command deck. Voss inhaled sharply. "This isn't a message to us." His hands curled into fists. "It's a message through us." For the first time since their discovery, he felt true fear, not for himself, not for his crew, for the entire human race. The pulse had become a storm. Across the fleet, across every human colony on the frontier, the phenomenon had escalated. The whispers in their minds were no longer fleeting. They carried weight, purpose. It was no longer just a message. It was a call. Voss gritted his teeth as the holo display flickered with the latest reports. Entire research stations had gone dark, their last transmissions garbled, voices filled with awe or terror. "The vessels have begun to move." The phrase appeared again and again in the reports, but there were no vessels, no known fleet matching these descriptions. And yet deep in the subconscious of every affected human, an image lingered, colossal shapes drifting through the void, waiting, watching. "Sir." Ilyanov's voice was barely a whisper, her gaze locked on the monolith. I think we're not just remembering something, we're reliving it." Voss turned to face her. "Explain." She hesitated before speaking. "The dreams, the visions, what if they aren't remnants of a forgotten past? What if they are memories being reawakened? What if humanity isn't just discovering something new, but returning to something old?" A heavy silence filled the observation deck. Outside, the monolith pulsed again, and for the first time, the signal did not just echo in their minds. It manifested in the real world. Every system aboard the Argus flickered, screens flashing with incomprehensible symbols. The lights dimmed, as if the ship itself was reacting to an unseen force. And then, from the void beyond the monolith, something moved. The void was no longer empty. Beyond the monolith, where once there had been only endless blackness, they emerged. Shapes vast and silent, coasting through the dark with an unnatural grace. They were not ships in any conventional sense. There were no hulls, no thrusters, no lights to signal their presence. And yet they were moving. The Argus crew stood frozen, watching as the massive entities shifted, pulsing with the same rhythm as the monolith. The signal, the pulse, the messages, it had all led to this moment. Voss swallowed hard. "We triggered this," he murmured. "We woke something up." Ilyanov's breath was shallow. "No," she corrected. "Something woke us up." The monolith's pulse had fully synchronized with their own bodies. Every human aboard felt it, a presence settling into their bones, into their thoughts. And then, the whisper returned. "The vessels have arrived." A presence coiled around Voss's mind, not hostile, but knowing. The images he had seen in his dreams sharpened, becoming memories that no longer felt distant, but deeply personal. Humanity had not evolved alone. They had been part of something greater once. A vast interstellar force. Guardians, explorers, warriors of an age beyond recorded history. But something had happened. Something had wiped their memories, buried their past, broken their connection to the ancient power that had once been theirs. Until now. Until they had returned to the source. The Argus's consoles flickered wildly, the ship's systems struggling to process the energy bleeding into reality itself. Across the fleet, the same was happening. Ships failing, communication networks flooded with incomprehensible transmissions. And then, one final message. The choice is yours. Reclaim what was lost, or remain forgotten. The entities beyond the ice. Monolith did not move closer. They simply waited. Voss turned to his crew. The weight of the moment settled on him like a cosmic force. Humanity stood at the precipice, not of extinction, but of something far more profound. A return to power. A return to who they once were. He exhaled, looking out into the void. Prepare to answer.